Oh, shit. We got a bomb here, an NFL bomb. The Chiefs have traded, according to Adam Schefter, 6-time Pro Bowler Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins. It's 5 draft picks. This happened quickly, or at least quickly to public knowledge. I don't think any of us had this. If you're talking about a skill position player in that league with a name, this is a guy at the top of the list, as that's a game breaker. I don't understand how this cheetah is so much more athletic than everyone else in the sport. The Dolphins have traded a haul for a non-quarterback. You don't normally see hauls for non-quarterbacks. A 2022 first-round pick, number 29, a second-round pick, number 50, a fourth-round pick, as well as 4th and 6th rounders in 2023. Help me untangle this part of this trade.
Not only that, but also immediately paid him 4 years, $120 million, of which 72 are guaranteed. I mean, that's all in, all the chips to the middle of the table.
That's highest average annual value for a receiver. Devontae Adams just got $28 a year, so $30 million a year.
Stephen
Highest paid
Ross,
receiver.
the octogenarian, desperate owner of the Dolphins, who have been a laughingstock, not at business. He has had great success at business. He has been a laughingstock. Maybe the worst owner in the history of South Florida sports. That's covering some ground, okay? Jeffrey Loria won a championship with the Marlins. Stephen Ross in Miami, where the Miami Dolphins were the winningest franchise in America under Don Shula and Dan Marino. Stephen Ross, all of that collateral, he has burnt it up, and he gave the Miami Dolphins town to the Miami Heat. A desperate octogenarian used to winning money has been so desperate that he tried to get Sean Payton, tried to get Tom Brady, tried to fix, with desperation of an 80-year-old, looking at his mortality window. Because I will remind you that Jimmy Johnson, the last time this Dolphin franchise was any good, looked into the casket of his mother and realized he didn't want to coach anymore, and that's the last time the Dolphins were any good. Wannstedt used all that up, but he had a relationship with Wayne Huizenga, who is now passed, in which they talked about QTL, quality time left. Huizenga would send Jimmy a jet ski in the Keys once he retired. Once he looked into his mother's casket and said, bleep this, I'm disgusting as a human being a football freak who cares about football all the time. Huizenga was reminding him, as at the end in Huizenga, who built Fort Lauderdale, he ended up in a resting home with Alzheimer's, having a very quiet death out of the public eye after trying to build something in South Florida that was Marlins and Heats and Dolphins. Stephen Ross overtook that franchise that Huizenga represented well, was still a class franchise, and ruined all of it. All of it is ruined. The Dolphins have been a regional team for 20 years. The only time they make national news is when an assistant coach is snorting blow and trying to lure a Las Vegas sex worker, or when Richie Incognito is bullying a teammate. Just over 20 years, it's been Tom Brady pissing on the AFC East, the Jets, the Bills, the Dolphins. Stephen Ross, at the end of his life, as a winner at business, a loser at sports, his toy, he stinks at it. Now is trying, with all the desperation in the world, I got a new coach, he's got a couple of fullbacks, he's brought me a couple of fullbacks, and now I'm going with Tua, even though I wanted Deshaun Watson. Okay, I got to help Tua now. And I don't know. This haul does not have Devontae Parker in it. So what they're trying to get Tua, this is a monster receiving core now with Waddle, and now Waddle is your number 2. And this coach was coming here and saying, the guy said on this show, who are you excited about? Who's underutilized? And he just shouted at me, Waddle. And now they got someone better than Waddle. They got a deep threat. They have a set of receivers now that very few teams in the league have, because if you're asking a healthy Devontae Parker as a top 10 pick to be your number 3, and now you're throwing to Gesicki, they've got an offense now that they are playing for right now. We are trying to be explosive, so we just got the most explosive skill position player there is in the league.
The exciting thing about Mike McDaniel, too, is that you see what he did with San Francisco and how he took receivers that were kind of unknown and turned it into this offense that was like, oh, wow, we can do a lot of things with it. He gets Deebo Samuel in such open spaces where he can create from the backfield, from the slot, from the outside.
He was thinking of Waddle. When I was asking him about who's your Deebo Samuel, he was thinking of Waddle that way.
Now he's got Tyreek Hill.
Now he's got someone who's
better. Does he have 2 Deebos? Like, are we getting creative to the point where, like, you might see a scenario in which the Dolphins line up in the backfield with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and just run this crazy offense out of it?
I think it's fair right now to say, given what the Dolphins want to do with this coach and the desperation of their coach, that they are trying to get into the all-in national conversation of we are going to try and win right now by getting a mercenary that's super expensive. You're buying high on Tyreek Hill. Super expensive mercenary. You have been a franchise. Man, you've been trying to do this for a long time. Tony Martin was supposed to be a deep threat for Dan Marino. Failed. David Boston, Brandon Marshall, not deep threats, but they are big wide receivers. Failures. You tried to do this with Mike Wallace. You made him the most expensive receiver in the league. He was great in Pittsburgh. He wasn't anything special here. Now you went to the top of the food chain. You got a left tackle. You've got a left tackle for a quarterback that's not his blind side, but you've got an offensive lineman who can block. You haven't had any of those. That's a historically bad offensive line the Dolphins had last year.
I want to bring up something that Whitty said earlier about, is this a situation that the Dolphins can even exploit Tyreek Hill in the right way? In the sense that, is Tua good enough to make Tyreek Hill be the great that we know he is?
Here's the interesting part. I mean, right? It's like San Francisco was able to do stuff with quarterbacks that were okay, right? It's not about the quarterback, and that's the beautiful thing about Mike McDaniel's offense is that now he's got Raheem Mostert. Like, they have their
Chase Edmonds.
Like, they're stockpiling skill players to where they can hide the quarterback, and it's not an issue, right? If Tua can turn around and throw a 5-yard slant,
well, this is what they did with Garoppolo. We still don't know if Garoppolo can play. They just kept making him throw to Kittle. Like, they had one weapon there. And then Deebo Samuel, we all learned about him together, but it was just Garoppolo and Kittle for 2 goddamn years.
But this is why when people ask me, like, do you want to swap out random mediocre quarterback X who makes $35 million for Tua, I say no, because basically what they're doing is we got, 2 years with Tua at a reasonable price. If he's anything, then he should be able to do something with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki.
No, but he must now.
Like, one of the best pass-blocking offensive linemen in the NFL, 2 decent NFL running backs, and if he can't, then, we went for it, but it didn't work.
The Dolphins wrestled him away from the Jets. That seemed weird that the Jets would be in the Tyreek Hill game because the Jets are not as close as the Dolphins appear to be. But you do realize now that we've gone, and this, I think, is fairly stunning that it happened this quickly, but the timelines get sped up on young, valuable quarterbacks, and you got to decide quickly, is Josh Rosen my guy or not? Do I need to get somebody else? You realize that they've just, after going after Deshaun Watson, they've just gone all in on, Tua, we're a quarterback away. That we feel like we are a quarterback away. Are you that quarterback? They've just ratcheted the stakes where everybody in the league would want Tyreek Hill. They just won what would be a bidding war for Tyreek Hill. That asking price is high. I'm surprised Kansas City is willing to part with Tyreek Hill because I thought that was crucial to Mahomes and Kelsey looking like that because Kansas City has something. You guys help me. Please help me with this. I thought Ruggs and Hill were the only 2 guys in the sport, not even Jefferson and Chase, not Higgins, the only 2 guys in the sport of they're running a go route. It might be a go route, and still, if they're precise enough about this, you're not going to be able to do it. I didn't think there was a number 3. Am I wrong about this? I thought it was just Hill and Ruggs.
You know who the number 3 is? Deshaun Jackson. Think about that.
Okay, fair enough.
It's Deshaun Jackson who was playing in 2004. Right? Like that's such a value in this league is having a guy that can just outrun everybody. Now the Dolphins have 2 of those guys. You'd think Jalen Wall is another one of those guys.
But if you're going to scheme a team to death, if you're going to get the Shanahan clone, the hire of the quirky 39-year-old who's coming in here to scheme you to death, he's bringing the scheme from San Francisco, and now it's not Garoppolo and Kittle. Because San Francisco did not have one of those deep threats. If what you're doing is building around a coach and quarterback combination of how creative can you be with space? How creative can you be accurately? Did they just make the field bigger? Is it McDaniel coming in and telling Ross that you can't get me a more important piece than anybody who will make them respect that, yes, Tua can throw it 15 yards in a phone booth, and he will keep throwing it, breeze to Michael Thomas, to Gesicki as much as he can, but can you get me 10 more yards of field? Can you get me 10 more yards of space to play in because I can throw bubble screens to either of these guys at the 3-yard line, and what the hell are you going to do?
Yeah, I think that's very clearly the play here is figure out how to get the defenses to start respecting the Dolphins outside of 15 yards because I mean, frankly, my entire life, there's been no respect for the Dolphins outside of 15 yards. The question is this quarterback equipped? And Mike McDaniel has talked, all about, well, we're back into it and we think he can do this, but I'm not confident. And that's my fear is you're paying $30 million a year and reported 70-something million guaranteed for a guy who I'm not sure you maximize.
Oh, it's jet fuel though. It's can you give us 3 years of your prime? Like how old is he? Can
28.
you give how much more is on those legs? It's rocket
He's
fuel.
going to age poorly though, Dan. Like we know guys like this do not last.
Well,
Obviously
because-
Deshaun Jackson's an outlier.
Well,
but
because if he's 4.29
he's going to be 4.35,
at his peak, if it's
4.41.
if it's 4.33, like that, like those tenths of a second, those hundredths of a second are the difference between the kind of speed that you're talking about and being able to be caught by NFL corners.
To me, the desperation of it is fascinating because he's done. The owner's done being a laughing stock.
I'm surprised that they're going all in on this. I mean, they have their defense, albeit under Brian Flores, won them games, and there were times where they just needed their offense to get to 26, and they'd be 11-6 or 12-5, but their offense couldn't. And so I completely understand, like, just being annoyed with that. I'm just surprised that all the capital that they built up, right? Because it was years of acquiring draft picks and trading Laramie Tunsil to get a bunch of draft capital. It was the Philadelphia 76ers process in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And they cashed it all in now. They
Oh,
competed
it's a
reasonably for 2
desperate
years,
owner,
and they just went for
a
it.
desperate owner trying to make a loud noise. This is what desperation looks like. I'm not sure they're wrong. It might work, but he wants to be relevant.
I just hope it's fun.
He wants his team to matter.
My only hope is that when I watch the Dolphins on Sundays, I'm not like, ugh, Tyreek
But
Hill
this
looks
is-
so different in
this is-
Kansas
but
City. It
this is
doesn't
that.
look like this here.
This is the bet they're making. They're trying to make the Dolphins a team you want to watch on Sundays. Nobody outside of Miami wants to watch the Dolphins on Sundays.
I'm sure Mike McDaniel went to Stephen Ross and said, hey, look, I know we've been trying to look for a quarterback. This just accelerated Tua's process by 1,000. Because if it's, hey, this year doesn't work, we're moving on. We've got a piece that is going to play right tackle, I'd assume, now can easily slide to his natural position at left tackle with Teron Armstead, and you can get a quarterback that's righty, that can play, that can have your star left tackle be there, and all of a sudden change the dynamic of the game. So this gives Tua a year.
It's fascinating to me that this is an all-in play for just everything has been fast-forwarded around this position and value at this position. When they changed the rules on the salary of the most valuable position in the sport, they allowed you to cut bait where you don't have to spend 7 years with Ryan Tannehill. You can figure out quickly. This is part of this move, winning him, is the all-in of let's find out. Is this the quarterback? This year, he will not be here next year if Tyreek Hill does not make this an explosive offense.
Right.
He will be gone, and they will go on to the next pick.
So the thinking is, hey, we went and got you proven. These guys are proven great at what they do. If you can't make it work, this tells us unequivocally you're not the guy. Let's go find
That's
the guy.
a pretty funny way to measure that, though, right? If Tyreek Hill looks less than here, then okay, quarterback can't play because we've seen Tyreek Hill, what
Right.
he can do with a great quarterback. We're not going to do the whole thing that we did with Baker Mayfield, are we? Because Odell Beckham, we saw him be great, and then he goes to Cleveland, he's not great anymore, and people contorted themselves into defending that Baker Mayfield would be good enough, even though wide receivers aren't great somewhere else, still young, and then go to you and aren't great. If Tyreek Hill is not great here, they will blame Tua. And it will be over for him in Miami. He has 1 year to do this.
I'm just terrified that it's going to be the guards in the center, like that they're not going to be able to block. They got a left tackle, but they're not either going to block his blind side or they're not going to be able to block on the interior. And we're just back to offensive line problems after all this.
I asked McDaniel about that though. I asked him, hey, that's a historically bad offensive line, and his response was, everywhere I've been, we run the ball. Whoever
I don't like that answer.
But whoever my offensive linemen are, whether we've been in Atlanta or San Francisco, that was his counter. My counter is, aren't you scared that you'll never be able to evaluate this quarterback because the Dolphins haven't been able to block anybody for 20 years. And they keep investing. This is the thing about the Dolphins that was most maddening. They spent so much collateral on blocking, and you can't even make a quarterback evaluation because Pro Football Focus is telling you this is the worst offensive line we've seen in 15 years.
Yeah, that to me is a little bit of a damning answer of saying, "Well, I've done it everywhere." Well,
This is a different task you got here.
yeah, like it's not. It feels like it's not giving appropriate appreciation for the current.
It's him saying, "I can coach," right?
Yeah, like you coach them up. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if it works that way.
I know we're a Miami-based show, but very quickly on Kansas City. This is a pie chart situation now in Kansas City because it was Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill that made the whole thing work. And now the question is, you take one of those pieces out, does Mahomes look like Mahomes without Tyreek Hill?
Oh, but I submit to you, Tyreek Hill is better than Juju Smith-Schuster. But is he better than Juju Smith-Schuster and all the shit they got? I don't know. I feel like now we put Kansas City in a place where we just gave them all of this extra assets to go and make their team even better.
The picks aren't that great, though.
No, but you can cash him in to go get some. You can take the package and go get a receiver from somebody.
Let's analyze it from this perspective, though. Okay, the difference between Tyreek Hill and Juju Smith-Schuster is what? Is it the difference between all of these picks? Because if Kansas City, the part about this, one of the parts about this that was surprising to me is that I don't think any of us did in our head the math. We thought that Juju Smith-Schuster was going there to be Sammy Watkins or to be Pringle or something, and none of us did the math of, he's going there to replace him. He had to have known, the Chiefs had to have known when they signed him. They're making the argument, do you want to be the number one for Mahomes here because we might be getting rid of Tyreek Hill? But wasn't Kelsey also great? Not lead the league in receiving great, but wasn't Kelsey also great when Tyreek Hill was not playing? When Tyreek Hill was hurt, weren't they able to also manufacture that without the deep threat?
I think the other thing, too, is everybody got wise to just running two high safeties and not letting Tyreek Hill take the top off the defense. After that 390,000-yard game that they had in Tampa last year, they're like, hey, why don't we just run two safeties, let Travis Kelce get everything underneath? But now everybody's going to be wise to that and say, all right, let's just stop Kelce and force them to actually do something deep. Like, the problem is Kelce's not going to get all of the attention, and what does that leave everybody else?
What a fascinating cynicism for you to have, Whittingham, that legitimately a player like none other in a really athletic league that you're like, are the Dolphins going to screw this up too? Are they going to ruin him? Is he going to be Mike Wallace? Mike Wallace, we've learned this. Mike Wallace came here and in Pittsburgh with Roethlisberger, he was the best deep threat in the league. He was all these things that we're saying about Tyreek Hill, and he got here and he was not any good.
No, I mean, he was okay, but he just wasn't the same guy.
The offense wasn't any explosive. It wasn't. You weren't seeing the ball thrown down the field all the time.
What are the examples of skill position players fixing a quarterback? I can't think of too many. I mean, maybe there are, and I'm just not.
Sterling Sharp.
40 years ago, we're using an example.
You asked an example.
I just mean like in the modern era. Like, you don't think something of a quarterback.
I have one.
And then skill position guys turn him into something.
I have one. Stephon Diggs with Josh Allen. He changed the way that Josh Allen plays. 100%.
Josh Allen suddenly got accurate. Josh Allen, that offense, I don't know how much that has to do with Diggs and how much it has to do with one amazing year of growth from the quarterback. All of it, though, is in the America's most popular sport. As we love the transaction, as we love the surprise, because so few of these transactions are a surprise, Miami fans can feel good about an explosion of hope that tries to make them go from something for 20 years that has not only used all the collateral that Shula and Marino gave them, but boring on top of it, uninteresting on top of it. It's not just that Jimmy Johnson left and 20 years of shit, just shit, unending sewage, desecrating what was built over a generation that started with a perfect team. Still the only perfect team. The Miami Dolphins got in the game today. Now it might not work, But they are now the team that's going to be talked about on First Take. Odell Beckham took that with him to Cleveland. Oh, there's a star. There's a game breaker. Cleveland's now interesting. Baker Mayfield got the commercials. This is a bet on Tyreek Hill, Tua, and it's a bet to make your team interesting right now by doing the hope trafficking of we're going to blow up the draft picks. We're going to spend all the money. We're not going to groom our own. This isn't about value. It's just about speed. Somebody else developed him. This is not our project. We're buying a mercenary, and we're buying a mercenary with a transaction that's a surprise to get in the game, and that succeeds. They today are in the game now. They're in. Now we're going to talk about the Dolphins. What are they going to be? What is Tua going to be? We're going to be arguing every week. Is Tua the problem? But it not like the way we've been shouting into a well for 15 weeks where no one actually cares nationally what's happening with Tua. Oh, he's not Burrow. He's not Herbert. At the quarterback and coaching position, the desperate owner, octogenarian, who's used up all of the benefit of the doubt collateral and has been a laughingstock, just got in the game with Tyreek Hill. He got a name, flashy, easy, spent a ton for it, but one, tried to get Harbaugh, just fails. Tried to get Watson, fails. He finally got someone saying something positive about Stephen Ross at a desperate time, as again, he checks in on his mortality.